Joining us now, NBC News national affairs analyst and executive editor of The Recount, John Heilemann. Also back with us, the host of Way Too Early, White House bureau chief at Politico, Jonathan Lemire. John Heilemann, am I missing something? Do these things not matter at all to voters?
Well, we're going to see about that, Mika. I think that's the real question. You note Raphael Warnock, in addition to being the winner of that special election a couple of years ago, was also the first, I think, the senior pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. So you're going to have a pretty stark contrast here between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. This is a very close race, as Kristen Welker suggested. Walker has been an incredibly weak candidate throughout the entirety of the race, and yet, Warnock has not been able to pull away. It's the polling average has it about 1 point, which means there is no difference. They're in a toss-up race, and you're seeing what's happening with the support. Republicans, it's 2 weeks to early voting in Georgia now, and it's too late for Republicans to do anything but rally around Herschel Walker. But to me, at least one of the questions is, what's next? What's going to come in the course of the next week, 10 days, 2 weeks? Because this, I think, it looks like a shot out of the Oppo cannon that was waiting for this timing, this close to voting. I think there might be more where that came from.
The question is what's next, but also will it matter? Because it seems that even his son coming out saying what he said right now doesn't matter. Certainly doesn't matter to Republicans. But, John, I've always looked at this race and looked at the fact that it was as close as it was, despite the fact that Herschel Walker may be the weakest Senate candidate I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I stack him up with Roy Moore and Todd Akin and people like that. Right. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody as ill-equipped emotionally, intellectually, in any other way to be a United States Senator. And yet I've noticed how close the race has been in Georgia, and my feeling has been if it's that close in Georgia, and I've been saying this for a couple of weeks, then Arizona's going to be tight, Pennsylvania's going to be tight, Wisconsin's going to be tight. I mean, that should be a real warning sign for Democrats that, again, despite everything that's happened over the past 6 months, Herschel Walker being competitive in any state this year, bad news for Democrats, good news for Republicans.
Well, look, Joe, he's unusual in one respect. He's a challenger in a race where has probably in Georgia close to 100% name ID from the first day. He's incredibly famous, was a beloved football star in that state. And there's not a lot of other challengers who have that kind of good feeling prior to the campaign to start with. It's also the case, I think, one of the other things, and I agree with you, obviously, the closeness of the race has been striking. The other thing that, we've all noted is that over on that governor's race going on in Georgia, where Brian Kemp has a substantial, high single-digit lead over Stacey Abrams, and has now for a while, to the point where, the kind of political consensus among people who look at the data over the last month is that Brian Kemp's in a pretty commanding position in that race, which may suggest something not so much about the prospects of Democrats around the country, Joe, because, these statewide races they create a little bit of their own wind and weather, but that Georgia, despite Joe Biden's victory there in 2020, that Georgia may not be as purple, let alone blue, as people thought, and that it may just basically be is actually still a light red state that Joe Biden was able to claim because of the disaffection of suburban, white, Republican Georgians, or suburban around Atlanta primarily, who just were so disgusted by Donald Trump that they walked away from Trump. But they may sort of be kind of coming home to the Republican Party in this race, in both the Kemp race, and they're sticking with Herschel Walker. And that may tell us something about Georgia as much as it does about the whole country.
So, John, let's talk about the whole country, where Georgia obviously is one case, a tight race, bad candidate, Herschel Walker, but still he's got a good chance to win there. You can go over the map. It looks like the polls are tightening a bit. In Pennsylvania, John Fetterman still has a lead, but Dr. Oz closing ground a little bit. Obviously, Ohio is going to be competitive. Arizona slightly less so, but nobody's counting out Blake Masters in that state. How are Democrats feeling now? They were sort of jubilant about some of the candidates they got. Now things tightening up a little bit.
I think, Willie, that it's still the case is that in House races, let's just focus on that for a second, that Democrats still feel like they're in a lot better position than they were, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, where they really were bracing for a red wave and getting slaughtered potentially in the House. I heard John Lemire talking earlier today about the fact that that some of the optimism of Democrats has receded a little bit, and I think that's true. But it still is the case. The Democrats are playing a much better hand than they were playing, as I said, 6 months ago, 9 months ago. The economic issues seem to be kind of becoming more preeminent in a lot of these races, and so that favors Republicans. But the House, I think, still more or less, the likelihood of Republicans to take the House, but not in a gigantic, overwhelming way. These Senate races were always going to be close, and I think Democrats knew these Senate races were going to be close. They knew that the Pennsylvania race is going to be close. This is a 50-50 country. I'm in Arizona right now, and you're right. Mark Kelly and Blake Masters have a big debate here tomorrow night. But if you look over in the governor's race, Carrie Lake, someone who a lot of Democrats think is super dangerous because of her election denialism. I saw her yesterday, and huge crowd, a lot of enthusiasm. She's a very strong performer, and Democrats down here are terrified that she might be in a position to win the governorship in this state, and that would be a very dangerous thing, both for the state and for the country in 2024.
In fact, a new poll out this morning shows the Carrie Lake in a dead heat for that race, despite the baggage coming with her. And Joe, Mika, I mean, this is the state of play right now. It's extraordinarily close as every Senate race. White House aides that I speak to, Democratic Party leaders, they're hopeful. They're holding out hope for the House. They're not, I would say, optimistic. They think that they're probably still a few seats short just by the nature of the map. Also, the dilemma here is how to use President Biden, whose poll numbers have certainly improved in recent weeks, but still middling. To this point, candidates not sure if they want him campaigning with them or not out in the districts. Biden has largely avoided that, instead speaking at raising money, focusing on raising money for the party, focusing on big 30,000-foot speeches from the White House where he can draw contrasts between Democrats and Republicans. That's what's been effective so far. But as these races get that much tighter, Mika, it'll be interesting to see if some candidates want the president out of the United States there with him on the rope line.
It is interesting because those poll numbers we've been seeing in the mid-40s. There was an ABC poll last week that looks like an outlier that had him at 39%. A Morning Consult poll yesterday had him at 46%. So they're all over the place, which John Heilemann gets to the most important point, I think, for anybody watching this. I mean, we have learned over the past two presidential election cycles, that the polls are just absolutely hard, especially in states like Wisconsin and other states that, had Joe Biden up by so much. You could also look to Arizona in 2020 in the Martha McSally race, where she was supposed to be losing by 13 points. By the end, she lost by maybe 1-2 percentage points. It seems, and we saw it out of Brazil, that when you have these right-wing populists, they always underperform with the polls for whatever reason. And we're looking at one of two outcomes, possible surprises. One, that the pollsters still aren't getting those right-wing populists to answer correctly, to answer truthfully. That's one. And then there's the other. There's obviously the Kansas effect, where that referendum on abortion was supposed to be a 50-50, right, ended up being almost a 20-point spread. When you talk to any pollster, and they will tell you, will they not? We have absolutely no idea who's actually going to show up to vote. We're doing our best guess, but we're just whistling past the graveyard here.